So this is a home I was called at for. Is interesting. This guy did a whole lot of renovation work on this home, and he was in a big legal argument with the owner, and so he was paying me to tell him everything that was wrong that he did. And so it was a little bit difficult because he wasn't there, but the owner was there, and I'm having to go over and look at things. Here's an exterior patio with the ceramic floor over top of an interior space underneath it. And the issue was that the lady said, we're getting water in from underneath this patio, and we got to figure out where it's coming from. You can see she's got plastic all over the place trying to keep it in. She doesn't know where it's coming in. A lot of stuff was coming off of the gutters, the way that they had designed the roof, which was a whole nother issue. But the point I want to make is that when you have something that's over an interior space, that's still something that you have to think of as a roof. That's still something that you have to maintain water control. And there's a lot of ways to put a patio or a walking surface over top of a flat surface where you have an interior space, a conditioned space. But when you seal it with something like this was a sealed ceramic tiles. It becomes much harder to be able to pull something up and look and see what your underlayment is and what your protection is. So I couldn't really say anything about what was happening here other than you're going to have to rip it up and see what's there. So a little bit of slope, 1.8%. Is what I measured there just with my phone, set my phone on that. These are a couple other things on the house. You can see this is some shingles they just wrapped around a chimney, an old chimney that was sticking through the roof. No flashing. Here's something, I mean, look at this and tell me how many nightmares you could see in this design. You know, if that was my house, I don't know what I would do. I would just tear it off and just reframe it with something else. But you've got this little pocket here that's already collecting stuff. You're pushing all this water from here and up above, right down into that crack, and who knows what's over there. That's just going over the gutter on that end. And on this side, you've got water washing down here and probably just running over the edge that way as well. So that's just another mess there's not a lot you can do with it as far as reshingling it. It's just got to be redone. If you're on a roof and there's no drip edge, you know, if you can get your hands under those shingles, lift them up a little bit, see if there's any rot there. This thing you can see, that wood is just gone. So they put the roof on and didn't put any drip edge, and that thing's been just dripping over there right on that, probably plywood is what that is. That's gone. I had another case, some nice older folks up the other side of Baltimore. They called me up, they said they had a new roof put on. They didn't have leaks before. Now they have a leak in their family room here, coming down around the chimney. So it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but there's staining right here, kind of all the way around. So I went up on the roof. First thing, there's some cracks right there at the chimney. So if water's getting in, it's going straight down that masonry into the house. And if you look, it's kind of hard to see. I didn't get a whole lot of good pictures here. If you look at this, and I think I have a couple others, this is just like an underlayment that they use for the flat part of the roof. It's not really a permanent exterior surface.
Also, yeah, the flashing is not anchored at all that I can see. It's just caulked. If it wasn't leaking today, it would leak soon because caulk is not permanent. It really needs to be permanently attached flashing, counter flashing, step flashing, the whole 9 yards. And the best is a reglet, which is cut in and actually doesn't need any sealant.
Yeah, the way they used to do it years ago, and I just don't see it like I did years ago unless I'm on an older house, is like you said, just they cut out that grout joint there and just tuck it in and grout it back. So there's a cricket they had on the upper side that they put in. I don't particularly care for the way it's shingled, but you can see they put that in there. Whether there was one there before or not, I don't know. But that's the upper side of the chimney. On the lower side, so it went from a sloped roof on the upper side to pretty much a flat roof on the lower side once you got onto the other side of the chimney. I think originally that chimney was exterior to the house, and then they put on like a enclosed porch underneath it. So I'm pointing here to an opening. I think I got another picture that's better than that. There. They were openings all over. I guess in this case, this is a graveled exterior roofing material, but you can see anywhere you're going to have an opening, water is going to get in, and water will go wherever it can go. So just because there's an opening here doesn't mean that it's not running somewhere and getting into the house. This was a 4-story large row house down in DC, right between Georgetown and DuPont Circle. It was a flip in 2016. They'd lived there for 3 years. The lady called me out, said she had a lot of problems. Only 2 of the main problems I'm going to cover in this discussion. But this one here, inside, underneath that skylight, there was water damage, so water was getting in. So it could be the curb that's leaking. It could be the skylight that's leaking. My question, because we have some of these on our house, the curbs are really low on some of these skylights. I don't know if there's, a typical height that you want to see on something like that. 4 to 6 inches, that's what I would expect. But most of these come from the factory, already pre-built, and you just set them in there and put them in. So that was my guidance to her, is have these taken out, put in a taller curb and probably a new skylight, unless she likes that skylight. But the interesting thing is, I was on this job for a while because it was so big, but the next time I went over, she was having the painter repaint the ceiling in there before she did any repair work. So this is another skylight they had. This one's farther up the roof line that's sloping down towards the other one, but you could see this roof was just jammed with stuff. They had, I think, 4 or 6 of the air conditioners up there, and just piping everywhere, just everything running across the roof, nothing allowing the water to drain properly. This was her second problem that she was really worried about. She says down in the basement, so this is the 4th floor, it's majority underground. And she said that the wallpaper keeps coming off that she had put on. And so she had them out there, they pulled it off, they re-glued it, put it back on. And I don't know if you can see here the wrinkles in this wallpaper. So I go back up on the roof. So the wall down 4 stories down from this is right about in here, where you see some of this where it's already been sealed with some sort of asphalt strips going up to this chimney here. And this is probably built, I think these two were probably built around 1890s. So you can imagine how old this brick is, and you can see somewhat how the grout has been aging back. So the question is it coming in through the bricks? Is it coming in through these chimneys, the top of the chimneys? Here's another chimney. This may be the chimney in the back. I can't remember. There's 2 of them along the side wall of this place. So you've got the chimneys, which this one was one of, they had all been relined in 2016. So they all had stainless steel liners and caps on the top with the little pull caps where you could close them off from inside the hearth. So my guess was they're not coming down that way, but they could be coming in around this brickwork over in here. So you could see the ones that had already been relined, and then the one next to it was for the building next door. And the building next door was owned by an embassy. I don't remember which embassy, but the embassy was doing no maintenance to that place, as you'll see in a minute, inside and outside. So my guess is that any water that's coming in is coming in from the embassy next door. And I told him, I said, you're gonna either have to get them to do some maintenance and sealing on these walls and chimneys, or you're gonna just tell them you'll pay for it and have it done. But that's probably the only way you're going to solve your water problem in the basement, because that water's just running right through those sponges right downhill. So this is the front side of the embassy. You can see how much the maintenance needs to be done, or replacement. This is the gutter here. You got a hole in it, it's coming apart. Over here, the front facade starting to pull away from the rest of the masonry. I mean, it was just a total mess. A lot of these, there's 2 different things I'd say about if you do any work down in DC on the row houses or anything like that, is I either find that they've got these openings that were built, 40, 50, 100 years ago, that there's almost no curb around these openings so you can get on the roof. Or in most of the flips I'm finding now, they just seal them off, right? They just close off the ceiling. We don't want to deal with it. So you're stuck with not even being able to get in the attic to see what's there. This was a flip. This was one of the few, I don't know if you guys ever had it, where the owner or the builder follows you around the whole inspection. This guy was the builder's like super or whatever. He followed me the entire afternoon on this thing. Is this roofing? Is this a finished roof? This is underlayment, right? This is like water shield. This whole roof was done in this material. You can see the pretty little white lines for lining it up for the overlap and that type of stuff. I told him this roof's not going to last. You got to have them redo it.
Oh, that's the paper underlayment?
It's not paper.
That's modified, but you need the second coat. Yeah.
I mean, it was real thin. It's like your water shield, your ice and water shield. And they ran it up. You can see they ran it up over the parapet walls. They just ran it everywhere. No flashing, no aluminum, no anything. There's a shot up towards the front. And the one thing I'm sure you guys know, but I always try to do, even though I'm afraid of heights. Let me see if I get it here. No, it's in another one. I'll get to it. Is stick your head over the front. Let me go back here. Stick your head over the front and see what's on the other side as the roof goes over. Yes?
Donald, I want to ask you a question.
Use the microphone for people online. Use the microphone for people online.
Donald, I want to ask you a question. That roof is a modified bitumen roof. You're saying that that roof is incorrect?
Yes.
The way it sits in the picture?
Yes.
Because of what?
Because it's so thin. It's one coat, one layer.
From the picture, it looks to be like it's pretty properly done to me. I wasn't there.
I mean, usually when I see a bitumen roof that's rolled like that, it's a thicker material.
Okay. Whatever you say.
I mean, I'm not a roofer. I know somewhat about the materials. Haven't done a few roofs in my day, but you know, if you're saying this is a finished material.
It is. That's a finished material.
Don, can I jump in? So that is not a finished material, that's a base coat. The manufacturer of modified bitumen in their manufacturing and installation instructions says this either needs a top coat with the granulated or it needs to be painted. That
looks
material,
granulated to me.
that is not granulated, that's a smooth finish. It has a sand
Sand.
to keep it from sticking, but it's
Okay,
not a
Okay,
granulated.
then I stand corrected. That looks granulated to me.
No. It's just like sand dust. And you can see they wrapped the access hole with it, and that sticky stuff was just sticking to everything. It was sticking on the outside. You couldn't get it off. You couldn't get it back on. This roof, it was interesting that Rushton, those of you that know Rushton, he was doing an old house presentation like a week ago or something, and he said, if you see screws, that should not be on a home. That should not be on something where there's an interior space. That you put that on a shed, which is what I'm standing on. This is a shed, but I just wanted to make that clarification. If you can see it in the background, now that's bad. Let me click this again. You can see that little bump out there on the house, on the townhouse, in the background. That's the roof that's on that. So these are like 3x5 sheets of steel that are screwed down, same sort of thing. And that's an interior space under that. So you don't want to see that on a finished roof. Those things have washers underneath them that go bad, screws that will come out. we've got something similar to this on our porch, and the washers are coming out, the screws are popping up. So it's something I have to deal with, but it's not an interior space. Go up to the roof on the main part of this row house. Any idea, you guys, how old you think this original roof was put on? This is just like very narrow, folded, seamed panels.
Yeah,
Yeah, standing seam.
years.
that could be, yeah, that could be 50, 75 years.
That's my guess too, is if it wasn't original, it's old and it's been painted and had coatings put on it and everything. So,
I don't know about that, Don, because I don't see any individual pans. I mean, that's one long run the whole way. They started doing that in what, the 70s, 60s?
The short pans are from probably 1930 or before.
Okay.
so you're saying this is probably 50 years old?
Well, no, I don't think it's any more than 50.
Okay, okay. One of the things to note about this that I write up is when I see water staining, this unit here is a complete unit. It's got the condenser and the evaporator there. You can see by the ducting coming out going into the house that the whole unit is on the roof there, and it condensates running down the roof material, and that's starting to eat away at the finish on there. So that's something to take note of. Okay. You can see there's a better picture of it coming down the roof. So many of these old places down in DC, you don't know what you're going to find on the roof. So somebody carried these 50-pound blocks going up. And note the chimney behind it. That chimney got every hole as possible in it, whether it be the flue liner or the brick or the parging over it. Even on a low slope roof on one of these, make sure you're looking over the edge. Is the drip edge really a drip edge? Or is it just hanging there and that water is falling back underneath that and doing some rot to the underlayment? Anytime you've got pooling water, places where you can see pooling water, especially at an edge, is there rot underneath? Is that's why it's sinking? But that's something to call out. And then, like I was saying before, so I'm not exactly one who likes heights, but I usually try to stick my head over the front of these townhomes, take a picture down there. Interesting thing here, and tell me what you think, all these little gaps in the corbelling of the front brickwork. Was that original? Has that been there for 100 years? That's my guess. That's the way they did it, and it's still, nothing's happened with it. But you can see all the rust on this material, this metal material, how it's been painted over. So a lot of places for water to get in, just anywhere where there's a crack, where there's two pieces of material coming together. It's just something really to call out. This is the same house. This house, of course, because it was a flip at some point, they had sealed the attic ceiling. I mean, the upstairs ceiling to the attic. So luckily they were nice enough to leave the hatch cover. So I popped that off, popped off the plastic, blown in cellulose, whatever that stuff is. Lots of nice stuff you find in flipped houses. Stick your camera down in there, take some shots. see what you can find. That's about all you can do unless you want to crawl around in that stuff.
Just so you know, you can use a pole camera horizontally. You can use a pole camera to get into places like crawl spaces and things like that. And as long as you can bend it to get it in there, you can get, like I see a can light in the back. It's probably covered in cellulose, which it's not supposed to be.
You talking about that?
Yeah, or up and to the right. Yeah, right there.
Oh, yeah.
That looks like a can light.
Right. There. Maybe that too, even. Got all kinds of wires popping up and down.
A lot of that old cellulose was poured in. It wasn't blown in, it was poured in.
Somebody got in there, huh? Did you have anything? No? I'm going to try to roll through these a little faster, so stop me if you have questions or anything. This house, the lady called me, said, we got a new roof and it's leaking.
The
And
Zoom
we
is.
want to know why. We've had the contractor out. He said he did a good job. Everything's fine. We had the company out, GAF. They said everything's fine, but it's leaking. So I walk up to the front door and I see staining down the wall there. I look up, there's nothing up here, so if there was ever leakage, that's been fixed, sealed. She said that may have been years ago before they bought the house. She never really paid attention to it. Another shot from the side there. Here's the issues that she's having. She says water's coming over the edges, and it's coming through the soffits, and all this stuff is peeling and rotting and falling apart. These are brand new or almost new 5-inch gutters, downspouts. No gutters, just downspouts. There's another one, you can see where it's coming through. Get on the roof. There's something you guys probably know. When they put down the insulation, they've got these little round, I don't even know what you call them. It holds it in place. They're supposed to be covered up. They shouldn't be showing through if the layering has been done right. They were all over the place. There's the size of one of the openings that goes down into the soffit, into the downspout. Unfortunately, I didn't put a ruler on there and take a picture of it, which I should have. When I wrote it up in the report, I wrote it was about 2 to 2.5 inches. So that's 2.5 inches going into a 5-inch downspout. There was that one which was down here towards over here. The other one, this is on the downside of a pretty large, you'll see in a minute, roof surface. So 2 of them on the bottom edge. There's a picture of the roof. I don't know if you guys use, what is this company? Eagle View.
Eagle View.
If you ever don't get on a roof, but you really want to know something, you're curious about things, this is mostly done for roofers, so you're not going to get a lot of quality pictures or anything. But I wanted this just because I was working this up for them regarding rainwater flow and the amount of rainwater that's hitting this 2,462 square feet of roof space. So this slopes from this line here. This is basically the peak of the low slope roof. All this water's coming down here. And then on the upper side, we've got 2 over here. I think I got a picture of that or a drawing or something. So 97% of the rainwater is running at 2/12 slope. That's where your drains are on that roof. So you can get an idea. So all this water from this point here is all coming down going somewhere. And I'd say probably 80–90% of it is hitting these two right here. And it's just going right over the side. And the same on this, even though this is a narrow area here, these things were so far apart, that water's just coming over the edge. You'll see it in another picture. A couple little things on the roof. So if the roofer said, I did a good job, you know, the surface, there was not really much wrong with the surface other than these few things. But it was the whole idea that they didn't even think about the volume of water they were trying to handle and where it's going to go. So they're like, yeah, we put a new roof surface on, but we just filled those. It wasn't here. I'm going the wrong way, sorry. They just basically, by wrapping these holes one more time, they just made them smaller rather than opening them up before they wrapped them. So it was totally useless. That water, this is on the upper edge, the water's coming out and coming down, just beating the crap out of this ground cover here. You can see the indentations there. So the builder or the contractor came back out and he said, yeah, we did a few things. So this guy who was sent out to like fix a couple of these little holes, squirts a little piece of caulking here, but he still misses the hole. These are the little side cutouts, pockets, whatever you want to call them. So I just wanted to throw a level on there to see if they had any slope at all. This one here, there was, when I was standing there, I think there was rain maybe a few days before. This is all water, standing water right here. And that's, you know, underneath where they've got these little guides to kind of carry a lot of that fast running water away from going over the edges. That's part of the report I wrote, just a whole lot of stuff. This was on the roof. Anybody have any idea what kind of service this is?
That's 3-phase.
Boy, that was quick. So
The comment from the field was 3-phase.
So whoever owned this house back in the 60s, they had built a, what were those things from the bomb days? Fallout shelter. So they had built a fallout shelter, and he had put in 3-phase. He had all kinds of stuff apparently in there, plus a wood shop that he had, you know, after he no longer needed the fallout shelter. I don't know if it was still running 3-phase. I told them they needed to look, and if they didn't know on their what they were paying, they should probably call Pepco. This is one of the newer townhouses. Most of us in here, I don't know if you guys remember Howard K. Smith, the announcer on ABC News, nightly news. So he had a nice piece of property up in Bethesda, and when he died, they sold it off and whatever, built these row houses, townhouses, whatever. Again, this is a 4-story unit. This is the roof. These are little wood squares. It just all fit together. They're sitting on top of like little posts up off of the flat roof.
Excuse me, Don, Mark's got his hand up. Mark, what'd you have to say?
No, I forgot to take it down, sorry.
Okay, thanks.
So a lot of stuff on this roof. I mean, you could see they got air conditioners, they got plants, they got tables, chairs, everything. So I just popped up a few. They had this thing here, which I couldn't even move. It must be several hundred pounds. It's got a umbrella on top of it, and this is just a weighted bottom to keep it from flipping over. But all that weight's there. So I popped up a couple of these. You can see them mounted on these little screw posts to get them all level. Got under there with my camera, shot it a few different directions just to see what was over there. Not a lot of debris, but you know, it needs to be cleaned eventually. Went up to the sides to where the water is going to go down to the lowest point. There's another shot of that. There's a shot with it going out the scupper. And this is the one exit point for that entire roof. There's a bad shot from the ground. That's where the scupper comes out right there. And there's just a lot of elbows in that thing. So it comes out at a right angle and then goes down, and then another right angle and then goes down. Comes all the way down here into this mess. Another right angle, comes down, another right angle, down into the ground, under the ground, and then out into the woods farther down the way.
Did that upper roof that had the scupper, did that have a secondary scupper or just a single scupper?
That's the only thing I found.
Wow.
And there was no.
Because it's supposed to have a secondary.
Right. I mean, this side here, so this is the property line here. So all this over here is somebody else. You can see there's no scuppers there unless that's some sort of secondary drain. I don't know, but, you know. They had two pop-ups. This side, there was an elevator, so this is where the elevator equipment was, and the raised, I don't know what you call it, like a raised shed. And it's got a stairway there, one on either side. So I popped up on top of those. One of them was just fine. This one was the one on the left side. It had all kinds of problems. A lot of bubbles everywhere in the flat roof itself. It hadn't been sealed down. It was coming up for some reason. A lot of the same thing on the sides. Just looks like little wormholes coming in. And then all kinds of other weird stuff. Anytime you've got all these little curves and things that come together, different materials, different slopes and angles, everything can be a leak point. You just don't know.
I thought on roofs like that the roof material was supposed to be wrapped up, continuous, one piece, up the sidewall with a cant strip in the thing so you didn't have a right angle. And I'm seeing what looks like two pieces joined at the wall with caulk, and that's just plain wrong.
You talk about this?
Go back one. Just a little bit below where your line was, that's a seam.
You talk about this?
Yeah.
I see, yeah, this is an outer edge, right?
Okay.
And you only need cant strips for roll roofing, not for membrane.
Say it again?
Cant strips, you can use them, but they're required for roll roofing because it doesn't bend as well as the membrane. But membrane can do a 90-degree, whereas a roll roofing can't.
And just more ugly stuff. And you just look at that. You have no idea it's not leaking now, it's gonna leak. It's just bad. This is a roof I just did the other day, not really much to tell you about this. To me, this is probably a good intro into what we're gonna talk about next, but is this low slope or is this enough slope that it's not a low slope? See, I wrote it up that this needs to be rolled roofing. This is too much of a low slope, and it has other issues like here, where it comes down right to the edge, and then it curls right back up. So I don't know if that's just because the gutters kicked it up there, or the shingles are sticking out too far, but I don't like to see it where water's gonna come backwards and possibly come up under these shingles here and rot stuff out.
Hey, Don. So you mentioned something about rolled roofing on the low slope. So it's my understanding that you can put shingles on a low slope roof, but you have to put a special underlayment underneath, depending on the manufacturer, which isn't something we'd be able to see. So saying it has to be rolled roofing may not be, the best thing to say, but mentioning that there are special installation requirements and there's no way that we can see that they're there is an important thing, in my opinion, to get across to the clients that, if this isn't done right, it's wrong.
Yeah, I don't say must generally. I usually say based on my experience, I recommend that something that is this low of a slope be done in roll roofing, just because it doesn't shed the water as well. And when you start putting things in here like skylights, it just adds to the, water being trapped behind the skylight or other things. Because I've had several homes that have these low slope things. It's just has water problems no matter what. This was a curious thing that talking about the Eagle View views. I did this for one house, and for whatever reason, when I was inside the house and had the 2-story front entryway that goes up 2 stories, I did not see that window right there in the roof. And this house was up on a hill where you could not see the roof from anywhere around. There was no way. Normally I like to get up on a hill or zoom up there with camera or something. And this is like 3+ stories. So that was interesting. After doing all this, I said, well, what really is a flat roof? Because I never write it up in the report. You have a flat roof, or your slope is 212 or 312 or whatever. So International Code Council says for a flat roof, you need a little bit, 1/4 12 to 2%. There's another one. This is from the UK. Flat roof is less than 10 degrees. So they do degrees in UK, I guess. Low slope is 2 to 12 to 4 to 12. So there's a lot of difference in this. 2 to 12 is considered low slope, or is the break point 412 to where you can just shingle it. OSHA says 4 inches, so 412. I think most of the governments say 412. Here, IKO again they're a manufacturer, 412. Considered the lowest slope for standard shingle installations. Roofing contractors, 312. Another roofing company here, 212. Here's what Sean just mentioned. So this is GAF. It says for slopes of 2 inches to 4 inches, a double layer of roof deck protection is required. So, and there was another one that said, hey, you can use shingles on any low slope roof. We don't care, but you got to put something underneath it because we love to sell you our shingles. So I thought that was interesting. Standard pitch roofs, this guy calls them steep pitch roofs or steep slope roofs. Again, this one says 312. I would tend to say that that's kind of borderline through 912, the standard pitch roof. And then I ran into this. I'd never heard of this before, the golden ratio. Any of you guys architects? So apparently a perfect 45-degree angle roof is considered ugly. And I ran into 2 pictures that were great at showing this, but I could not go back and find them a second time. So generally the architects like to make it just a little bit more, so like 50 degrees. Yeah, above a 1212 or less, like a 1012. So that's just a table of roof slopes. So how much time do I have? 1 minute. So factors affecting a slope: weight, rain, if you're really pounding, snow and ice that sit on a roof, type of roofing materials. If you put a slate roof on a house that doesn't have the support for it, you got wind that can blow off shingles and things. You got to deal with drainage. Sometimes the appearance has an effect if they want something that looks nice, but it doesn't really work. Maintenance on the roof, and then depending on the roof surface and how well it's shedding the water and installed, deterioration of the structure. I got some more, but if I'm out of time. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Don. That was a lot of effort that went into that.